Now, we're probably not going to be starting off all our videos here on out with cocktail recipes, but every now and then I'll slap something together and feel like sharing it. This right here is called the Sunset Sherbet, and it is by far one of my favorite drinks. It is 1.5 ounces of strawberry jam to 1.5 ounces of limoncello, served over Sprite or any clear lemon lime soda of your choice, with a splash of grenadine on top of that. What you end up with is this very refreshing strawberry lemonade soda type drink. It has a flavor profile similar to lemonade, if you've ever had any of that. I don't know if they still make that anymore or not, but it's a very nice and refreshing drink on a hot as fuck fucking day like we've been having for the last 2 months. Absolutely delightful, and any chance I can get to use limoncello, I will take. Anyway, let's get on with the video. Limoncello! Hey, it's your dandy, Candy. And today, we're talking about dioramas. As a toy collector, I absolutely love making dioramas and have ever since I was a kid. I find them to be a great way of fancying up your displays by giving your figures a more personalized environment to be showcased in rather than just slapping them onto an empty shelf. Part of it's because we could never afford any of the cool sets that were around when we were growing up, so we made our own out of cardboard. But also because it allows us to create in a way that drawing and painting just can't. No matter the scale, the methods are roughly the same, and we've actually got some dioramas for sale right now over at our Etsy shop. Y'all can see the text at the bottom now. We all know what this is about. Now, they're mostly mountainous terrain pieces with a fantasy setting theme, which are a great starting point for a lot of dio making. And I figured since I had some old footage laying around, I thought it'd be neat to share with y'all the process of how we make these dioramas, whether you want to make one for yourself or you just want to learn the process. No, I'm not doing another take on that shit. So with that out of the way, let us commence. Thankfully, most of this video is going to be just voicing over scenes that I've already got, so that's nice. For most of our builds, we use cardboard, XPS foam board, napkin paper, Mod Podge acrylic paints, hot glue, and a low-heat hot glue gun, which is very important, tacky glue, and flocking if needed. If we're doing a project with glass windows, we'll use old packaging material that has clear plastic windowing on it. If we're doing something with a lot of plant life and things like that, we'll usually just get like some aquarium plants and cut those down to size. And we've also started using these neat little wood crafting boards for our bases that we picked up at the Dollar Tree. They work really well on both vertical and horizontal builds and are available at pretty much most arts and crafts sections, so you don't have to go to the Dollar Tree if you don't want to. Pretty much find them anywhere, relatively cheap. We start out by mapping our diorama onto cardboard, which will act as the foundation for us to lay our foam board on top of. It's a good idea to keep a figure that you're going to use on your diorama on hand so you can make sure that the proportions line up correctly. Because not every character in the same scale has the same dimensions to them, and some characters are squatter, some characters are thinner. Some even use that weird hero scale bullshit that's like 7 inches instead of 6. Looking at Utah. So keeping a figure on hand while you're working helps you to keep the proportions in check. Now, if you're unfamiliar with foam board, it's an insulation material that is made out of extruded polystyrene. It's got a nice stiff but soft texture to it, which makes it great for carving, and you can usually get it at most big box home improvement stores like Lowe's, for example. Just a heads up though, that if you're going to use foam board, that it can leave trace amounts of itself on your hands and fingers and clothes. So you don't want to be ingesting or breathing that in, so it's a good idea for you to wear a mask and gloves while you work with the material and to wash your hands thoroughly afterwards. Now, the XPS board that we've been using on our current projects was salvaged from a previous project we wound up scrapping because it had just gotten way too big to manage. Why buy new when you can just recycle? Am I right? I find this cardboard foam board method to be a great way to stretch out your materials and to save on supply costs, as you could easily just carve it all out on foam board and burn through an entire sheet super quick. Also, cardboard is easier to bend than foam board is due to its corrugation, allowing for more flexibility. So if you're doing a dial with a lot of curved surface to it, there you go. Got a little shortcut. With our framework set up, we then move on to laying down our foam board. Now, we're using a low heat hot glue gun on this project, and you definitely want to use low heat on foam board, as high heat can just burn right through the foam board and onto your hands and anywhere else that it touches, because, well, let's be honest with you, hot glue just gets everywhere. I'm sure A lot of crafters can relate to that subject. I'm speaking from experience. So yes, make sure that you have a low heat hot glue gun when you're working with foam board. Otherwise, it's going to be a bad time. Once the hot glue has dried, we then go in with our X-Acto knives and carve the foam board down to our desired shape before laying down a few layers of paper napkins and Mod Podge. This is also around the point in the diorama process that you want to go ahead and get some more texture details in before you apply the paint, or before you apply the paper napkins and Mod Podge. You can do that by rolling a tinfoil ball across the surface of the rocks, or rubbing a stone across it, or even sanding down things to make them smoother before you go into the paper and Mod Podge process. I find the napkin layer helps to fill in the cracks and makes the rock face more uniform in appearance. Usually slathering a layer of watered down Mod Podge on first, and then another layer over the paper so it'll adhere to the surface better and prevent things like healing or diapering where you end up with big pockets of air underneath the surface. Now, I find napkin paper to be nice and thin compared to other papers, which helps it to retain some of the details better than, like, say, newspaper or regular paper. You could also use toilet paper for this as well, but after 2020, we only use toilet paper for toilet paper because you never know when there might be another shortage. Now, the paper mache process that we're going through with this is not exactly necessary. It's just to make things more uniform, and that's a personal preference. But the Mod Podge is important as it creates a protective priming layer that'll actually allow your paints to stick to the surface rather than just rubbing right off. It dries clear, so if you're gonna ditch the paper on your project, we recommend adding some paint to the Mod Podge before applying it. We actually learned that trick from watching the Black Magic Craft channel, so credit where credit's due. Once it's all dry, we go in with our base color, followed by our accent colors, which we paint on the rocks at random. I find this gives the piece a more realistic look, even if the setting itself isn't that realistic, as most surfaces tend to weather and age and decolor over time. You'll want to match your colors to ones that'll complement your base color. Usually I go with colors that are a few shades lighter and a few shades darker, along with a metallic. We then follow that up with a layer of wash, which we make by mixing darker colored paints and soapy water, and a coat of dry brush to bring back out some of the details that was lost in the washing process. We then go over it all with a coat of Podge before moving on to our flocking, because if you don't, it'll wind up getting all over the place and it'll be a real pain in the ass to brush out the excess later. For grassy terrain, we just usually go with the pre-made stuff, because why not? You just dab a little tacky glue and then you shake, and then you brush off the excess. But for stuff like the snow that we used on our winter stone steps, we actually made that ourselves by mixing a paste out of baking soda, Mod Podge, and white paint, along with a dab or two of light blue paint and a little glitter. You can also make muddy terrain with this process by just changing the color of the paints. Seems like a no-brainer, but just in case you needed the info there you go. To whatever color, brown, purple, whatever color the mud's going to be. Now, for stuff like the vines that are on our well peaks, we took loosened threads of twine and dyed them green with a thinned down coat of paint, and then wrapped them around some crafting wire with a little tacky glue. And there you have it. It's been a while since I've made a diorama, as honestly, I just don't have the space at the moment, and I haven't really had much interest in collecting figures as of late, since everything's gone to 112 scale and I'm more partial to 118. But I am itching to make something new, whether it be something in 118 scale, which is one of my favorite ones to work in, or something for like a tabletop RPG. Who knows? We'll see, maybe. Some more advice that I would have that I almost forgot when it comes to working with foam is do not, and I cannot emphasize this enough, do not use super glue when working with foam. It'll melt right through the foam and can potentially release harmful fumes. And I don't mean like the hee this is kind of fun type of harmful fumes, but I mean seriously harmful fumes. So don't use super glue when it comes to foam. Stick with hot glue and tacky glue. Gorilla Glue actually makes a type of glue that you can use with foam, although it expands as it dries, so keep that in mind. Well, anyways, this has been Candy Dandy. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good one. Well, that sunset sherbet kicked in. I love this shirt. This shirt was one of the last things I got at this Bell's I worked at before they closed. Shout out to all of them. I hope they're doing okay. I fucking love this shirt because of how fucking corny that is. It actually says we came to the party, but As soon as I saw this shit, I was like, you know what? That would make a perfect fucking drag shirt for that shit. Just a heads up though, that foam board due to its corrugation. Corrugation? Bitch, what the fuck's a corrugation? What kind of Kentucky Fried bullshit is that? Corrugation. Go on now. Ain't that something? Is we though? Is we really though? Foam board from the fjord. Let's put our other glove on. Okay, yeah, now we're popping. Now we're going. Now what's up? What's good? Okay, let's get. I just know that people will ask this because of the fact that sometimes my accent is stronger than other times, and I cannot explain it to you. It just comes and goes. Okay, honey? So if you don't like it, that's fine. If you do, that's great. But don't be like, oh, you sound totally different. I do a lot of voices, baby. A lot of voices. And the gym's kicked in. Let mama teach. It's got this lovely ombre tone to it, which you probably can't pick up because of my bisexual lighting. And we've actually got some D. Come on now. Hot glue and a low hot. So the layers of napkin paper underneath, like you would. I just want to point this out that the paper put down before. Because if you don't, it'll what you end up winding up is getting. Once. Okay.